Good morning, gentlemen. If you're outside, go and start making your way inside. How you guys doing today? Oh, wait yet? I can yell louder. It was early, but I can get loud. Well, guys, good morning to our very last, our training number 4 for our Momentum host sites. So, guys, if you've been coming since we started, was it July? I want to step back for a minute and just say, like, wow, thank you for your faithfulness. Thank you for being here today. Is there anybody here, this is your first time actually getting to be in the room? You haven't been able to be in the room? There you go. Hey, welcome, Blaine. Welcome, Blaine. Good morning, sir. How are you? Listen, guys, I want to backpedal a little bit and just tell you about the vision, the heart of why we got here, and then we're gonna explain what's going on today and introduce my friend Sean here in a second. But listen, this started in March of this year, praying about what God wanted to do with the men of this church. And I was thinking about momentum. We didn't know what COVID was going to do. We didn't know how it was going to look this year, if we could do any events or anything like that. So we tried to push this event off as far as possible to November. And then I was at a men's event in Texas, and God very strongly convicted me that what we were going to try to do in November couldn't be done if men didn't have an encounter with the Holy Spirit, which is why we then created Men's Night in June. And the whole idea was that we wanted men to be filled with the Holy Spirit, because only He can ask you to do things you wouldn't normally do yourself. Because if I say, hey, I need a bunch of guys to come up here and be host site for this event, it would have been crickets. Maybe a handful of you would have been here. But there was so much prayer in that event that God would call the men, the right men to be in the room, the right men to have the heart for it. They would be faithful to finish what they started, and they would be willing to sacrifice. Because what we're asking you to do is sacrifice. Like the way the church is in America normally, or in the Western world, is you've heard Pastor John say it's consume, consume. You come in, and it's all about what you get out of it. If you like the church, if you don't, you go find a church you like better. It's like shopping. And we know that, right? But what we're asking you to do is be the church. We're asking you to produce, to be disciples. And that's another level of engagement. So that's the heart behind what we're doing here. And also knowing that at the height of the men's ministry, 2019, we were packing the building out. It was full. We couldn't hold more men. And we were going to have to figure out how to go rent a stadium or something because the building was getting full. That's not sustainable because that was only a quarter of the men in the church. And that doesn't leave us any room to reach anybody who's not already going to the church. It doesn't give us room to reach people that don't know Jesus. And so God orchestrated things in a way where all of us have friends, family, coworkers that don't know Jesus that we want to, that we may not ever be able to get them inside the building. But by doing this, you guys get to reach people that will never reach in an environment that's not intimidating. Because it's just building community. It's just doing life with guys. And so we're excited about that. So thank you for capturing the vision, capturing the heart. The theme for this event, again, this year, Momentum, is it's emancipating greatness, but we packaged it in a rocket. So it's a space thing. So the whole thing is every man has dreams. Every man has these goals. When you're younger, you tend to dream more. As you get older, sometimes life just beats you up a little bit. You stop dreaming, you stop hoping, and you just settle, or you go off on a dream that was never yours to be had in the first place. And it's tough to see a man lose hope and for a man to lose sight of his dreams. And we know that men were created for so much more. If they never meet the God who created them, they're never going to understand the destiny of what they were created for. So that's the heart behind this event, is we want men to become fully alive, know their maker, know the reason that they're created, and fulfill that destiny. We know that that destiny is a relationship with God. That destiny is for them to become the godly men that they were called to be, and for them to change their world, change their family, change their community, and not to be consumers that just take up, suck up, use up all the things in life. Because that's the way I think most men live their lives. And we are called to be fruitful men, men that produce, men that change the world. So that's the heart behind this event. And that's why we're here today. So today we're going to be over some different things, but I want to take a moment to introduce Sean Specie. So Sean, I connected with you when you helped us put on Thrive Today with Pastor Colleen. Was that last year?
No, that was just a couple months ago. Feels like last year.
Oh my goodness. All right, so that was a couple months ago. Yeah. So, and my wife Natalie and you have worked together some projects before. But tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and why you're here.
Yeah, thanks. Give it up for Aaron, you guys. So what's really cool about sitting here, I'll tell a little bit more about myself in just a second, but what's cool about sitting here is, I used to live in Norcross. My wife were like, you know, the half Panera, half bank that's over off of in Peachtree Corners. We lived in the apartment across the street from there for a couple of years, and then we bought a house in Duluth, and then my wife and I just moved to Jacksonville, and I'll show you a picture of them in a second. But I'm really excited because I'm also a believer. I grew up in the church, and then I started partying in high school and in college. And then in college, someone invited me. They just, someone who was rushing my fraternity. And that's one thing I'm really excited about this event that you guys are doing is you gentlemen are just inviting someone. You don't have to, you're not responsible for their salvation. You're not responsible for anything else, but I love it because I was invited when I was in college. I'm sure, how many of you guys, like, raise your hand if you were just invited and now you're here and you're gonna be invited someday. Like, someone invited you to church, someone you invited their house, someone you invited to dinner, someone you invited, like, we were all just invited, right? And then one thing led to another, and now, like, I can sit here and then with another group of men say that, hey, like, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And ultimately, that's what the goal is. And so after working with Aaron for months now on this event, that's really his heart. Like, that is the whole purpose of it, is to equip you guys so that all you have to do is just invite. And so we're excited about that. I'm already like tripping up by knocking stuff off the table. Thanks, Aaron. So excited. So we can put up on the screen a picture. This is a picture of me in front of a giant screen of people. We can put that up. Yep. So that's me. I work in corporate events. I have now for about 6 years. It used to be on stages like this in person. When the pandemic hit, I was talking with Ramal, and we were talking about, hey, like, I remember when this happened. I remember this happened. So our company was a $2 million business. And in March of 2020, when the pandemic shut down, we went from a $2 million business to a $0 business. And then we had to rebuild from scratch. By the grace of God, we'll hopefully hit $1 million this year. And this is what my life looks like a lot of times now. It used to be with people in the room, and now at times it's a lot of faces on Zoom. So we've got Steven, we've got a couple of others. I'm going to jump back so I can read a couple of names. We've got Zoom happening right here. And so we've got Jorge Silva on. Who else do we have on? We've got David. What's up, you guys? How's it going? I'm Sean. Nice to meet you guys. And if Steven is on, if you want to, you can start to screen share the slides that I sent. Or we can send it to you guys afterwards. But I got brought in to work with Colleen and Aaron's wife, Natalie, because we've been doing this for a while now. We've been doing in-person events and online events and the combination of the two, which is what's going to be happening. So we're going to be doing an event, and then we're going to be streaming it to a lot of you guys. You're going to be either at home or in a different room at Victory or in a restaurant or a gym or wherever you're going to be. And so a little bit about me, like all of you guys, I was talking again to Ramal earlier. He got up and he like had to go and do his job at 7 a.m. this morning. You guys all have a story and like a why behind it. And I want to get to know you a little bit here in a second, but this is my why. So we can put up a picture of my family. So this is my wife and daughter, and we are due in January with a little boy, which I'm excited about. And our daughter our daughter's really excited about it too. She's been asking for for either a brother or a sister for like 3 years now. And so the company that I work for is called Elevate. And we used to have an office in Norcross. Actually, our founder and president used to be in a small group with Colleen and with Dennis. This was probably 10, 15 years ago. He grew up in Gwinnett County. He went to Berkmar High School. Our office used to be just outside of downtown Norcross. And these are some of the companies that we get to work with. So Coca-Cola, Chick-fil-A, Delta, Billy, our boss, my founder and president, he was leading. I flew in last night from Jacksonville, and we were at like a dance party last night with like 2,500 dentists down at the Georgia World Congress Center. And so today, what I'm going to be talking about is we've got just a quick agenda of what I'm going to go through with you guys, because what we did at Elevate is we've been doing events for a while, so I'm excited to help with this event, as well as I'm a host MC. As you could see at that previous picture, I'm on stages a lot. I'm also behind the scenes producing a lot. And so I'm going to be a little bit behind the scenes and a little bit on stage at Momentum. And so I want to just help you guys because there's some real life like hosting principles that we've come up with that we've been training other people to do that I think can help you guys just maybe like if you raise your hand if you've done this before, like you've hosted men in like a small group before, some kind of a setting, okay? Hands down, raise your hand if you've never hosted a small group before and this is gonna be your first time, a couple. So whether it's your first time or you've done it before, hopefully something I say can make it just 1% better. Just you're like, I'm gonna use that one thing. So the agenda that we've got for you today is four things. Go ahead. What was that?
You partnered with Star Wars?
We have. So quick story. A couple of years ago, any Star Wars nerds like me? Okay, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. So Columbia Sportswear partnered with Star Wars to launch. So it was together. We partnered with those two brands. They created like remember the Ice movie where they were like on the ice world, the old like in the 70s or 80s movie. So Columbia Sportswear recreated that jacket and launched it they sold it in Chicago, New York City, Portland, and Seattle. And they hired our company to come to their stores where they were selling it. They only had like less than 2,000 of those jackets. They hired us to bring in a sound system, be host MCs, and like entertain people while they were waiting in line. It was a 2-day event and they sold out in 2 hours. So for 2 days.
You should have led with that.
So it was crazy. So yes, Columbia Sportswear and Star Wars. So this is what we're going to go through. So we're going to talk about the November 6th agenda. We're going to talk about the actual experience that you guys are going to have in your homes, in your restaurants, in your groups. I'm going to show you something that we're going to do at the event called Predict the Fail. It's a little fun thing. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about your actual group flow. So the first thing I want to do is get to know you a little bit. So this is something we call this or that. So I do this a lot with different groups. So you can just shout it out what your preference is. So the first preference I want to know is, do you prefer coffee or tea? Coffee or tea? Shout it out. Coffee or tea? You got to choose one. You can't shout tea.
There is one tea in the room.
One tea. Coffee. Another tea. Tea over here. I see you. Tea. Okay. Oh, that's a lot of tea, actually. A lot of tea. I would have to choose tea also.
It's because no one has had coffee yet. The coffee guys are solid.
They're like, I need more coffee before I can shout.
So the question is, who needs it more?
What about this one? Bacon or eggs? If you had to choose just one, can't be both. Bacon. Bacon was the first thing I heard, and then the eggs chimed in afterwards. Okay. What about this one? Waffles or pancakes? Which one do you choose?
Pancake.
Okay.
Wait. I gotta know that for future breakfasts. Okay, how many people said waffles? Who said pancakes? I've been doing waffles for 6 years. I'm sorry.
I love it. What about this one? Braves or Dodgers? Neither. Astros. Okay, I got it. And then how about this one? Are you a rookie or a veteran when it comes to attending or being involved in Victory Church? Rookie or veteran? Shout it out.
Right. Let me see the rookies real quick.
Raise your hand if you're a rookie.
Man, there's a lot of rookies in here. All right.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, give it up for the rookies. And in Zoom, by the way, if you're watching this and you're listening on Zoom, you guys can engage in chat, or you can unmute and chat to yourself also. Hopefully you guys can engage that way too. All right, so that's just a little bit, that's good for us to know. And notice like that wasn't awkward. It was simply, we put up 2 options. So when you're in your homes and how many of you guys, did anybody get the email and there was a link where I created a YouTube video and sent you guys for some icebreakers? This is a really simple icebreaker. If you didn't watch that video, go back and find that email. There's a whole YouTube video where I put together 3 different icebreakers so that beyond momentum, y'all can do this in your house. This can be just an icebreaker when you're hanging out with your guys, hopefully past the actual momentum date. You can just come up with 2 options. Hey, today's icebreaker is bacon or eggs. Which one would you choose? Braves or Dodgers? Something simple like that. And people get passionate about Like, you can see, like, people were shouting it out. They're like, no, Astros. Like, come on.
You have to be passionate to be shouting out Astros. For those of you that lead online small groups, this is a great tool for you as well.
Agreed. All right, so let's go into the day. So later, after today, not after today, at the end of this meeting, we're going to give you these boxes. Inside of these boxes is going to be an agenda for you. And on screen, we can put the agenda. It's the November 6th header. There we go. So this is the brief agenda. This is the abbreviated version. The reason why I chose this picture is it's kind of like the 30,000 foot view, right? Like, we're a high level view. It's not the nitty gritty. You don't need to know every single like minute by minute play, but this is what's going to be happening for you guys during the event.
Yeah, guys. So Sean and Pastor Stephen are basically going to be like mission control of this event. Because again, I just want to remind you guys, we've never done anything like this before. So at first we were going to make this an all virtual event, and then we found out it's going to be a hybrid event. And so some of the things we're doing for this event, we will never do again. Like, you guys, obviously, like 4 months of training, all the stuff we're giving you, all that, that's unique to be piloting something new. So we're going to talk about that. As far as the host site kids, before we get those out, we'll get into that a little bit later on. It's to be based off of if you guys fill out the forms we asked you to, come to the meetings we asked you to, all that stuff. So we're still going to make sure you have the basics you need. But if you're like, well, I just got here, then we'll help get you covered.
Yep. So to go into this a little bit, explain what launch at stage 1, 2, and 3, and then the landing means. So launch is simply the welcome. It's a pretty basic one. So at 6 p.m., we're going to do a series of welcome. Me and Aaron will be on stage. We'll welcome the people online. We'll welcome the people in the room. And then from there, we'll go into stage 1. Stage 1, what's going to happen is we're going to play a video for those in the room and for those online. And the video is going to be a couple of stories. And it's from there, what's going to happen is part of stage 1 is after the video, we're going to hit pause and we're going to go into a 15-minute discussion. And in your host site kits, you're going to have cards that look like this. And these cards, there's going to be literally a timer on the screen that says it's counting down from 15 minutes. We'll show you a little bit what it might look like. But you're going to have questions. And so you're going to watch the video together, and then you don't hit pause because it's going to be on Zoom. You just start talking in your groups, but we will pause from the stage and from the event. And then you guys just say, you turn to the guys that you're gathered with in your room, wherever you are, and you're going to ask these questions and have hopefully a meaningful conversation. Now, the cards do have a couple of questions. We've only got 15 minutes, right? So if you just get to one question, that's cool, right? You do not feel forced to go into each one. And then it's going to repeat itself for stage 2. So stage 2 is going to be part video. So after the discussion, Aaron will come back up. He'll say a couple of words, and then we'll go back into the second part of stories. And then from there into another 15-minute discussion. And then stage 3 is going to be a little bit similar. But it's going to be basically another. It's going to be another video.
So stage 3 will be another video, but it's going to be soap. You guys remember the first month when we had Phil Punter come in and teach us promise, principle, and soap. So what we went through then, you're going to go through with your guys. So it's going to be a card like this. On the back of it is the scriptures. They don't have to have a Bible or a Bible app or have ever read the Bible. Now the font is small. We hope to have it up on the screen as well. But at a minimum, you'll have a card for each guy in your group if you need to, or at least your discussion leaders. And so it's like James 1, 1 through 27. So if you want to, it's 27 verses. You'll have all the guys read it, go around in a circle, and then you'll ask them what's the verse that jumps out at you, because we know that's the Holy Spirit triggering something. Like, why does that verse jump out at you? I don't know. Well, what does it speak to you? Is there a circumstance going on in your life that applies to? Yeah, well, this is going on with my family. Like, share about it. And then talk about how can we apply that, and then we just have them pray it out. And if it's uncomfortable, and they try to they're like, well, I don't know how to do that. Just say, well, man, just talk to God the way you're talking to me. If it's still kind of weird, just pray for them. And the fact that you care about what they're going through and you're praying over their circumstance, that's going to have a huge impact on them too. So any questions? Well, actually, never mind. Sorry, we'll come at the question later. So you're going to find all this stuff in a folder. When you open the kit, we'll show you that later on, but that's where all these cards are going to be, and they're going to be in order, so it should be just really user-friendly. So the agenda he's going over is going to be like this. the Session 1 card, the Session 2 card, and the sub card.
Yep. So, and by the way, like, don't feel the pressure to remember all of, like, the flow of the event. We're going to make it easy on you. It's going to be in there, and it's just going to happen naturally. Like, we're going to give clear instructions, like, all right, 15 minutes, talk at your groups, really simple. So again, launch is just a welcome. Stage 1, we'll do video. You'll talk for 15 minutes with your guys. Then we'll do another video, talk for 15 minutes. Another video, you'll talk, and then the landing is just simple, the ending of the event. And it'll have really clear instructions.
And keep in mind, you guys are getting more prep than everybody else because you're going to be remote. But everybody here will be seeing this for the first time. So we're going to have 125 roundtables spread out across the campus, just like this, to simulate what you guys are doing. This, and you know, you may be used to online campus is kind of second rate compared to what's happening here in person. It's the opposite this time. We created the event for you, and then what's happening here is to simulate what you're doing. So there's 5 viewing rooms on campus full of roundtables, and we've asked 5 different ministries to be the host for each one of those sites. And then their leaders are going to be the table leaders, but they're going to have the same cards. They're going to have even less instruct. Well, Pastor Javon's actually heading that up. He's going to be recording a training video for them and teaching them what to do beforehand. For the facilitators, they're going to be running the rooms. The actual table leaders will be walking in kind of cold. They will have never seen this, so you'll be better prepared than they are. But as Sean just said, it's a plug and play kind of thing. We're going to tell you exactly what it is, and then when your 15 minutes is coming to a close, there'll be a video that plays saying T minus 30 seconds with a 10-second countdown. So it forces everybody to kind of stop talking and lets you know the event's over. That session's over.
Yep. So that's the flow of the event. And then now that we've talked through that, the next thing I told you that I was going to do with you guys today is talk about the actual like room experience. So at Elevate, we created an online course called More Than a Microphone for MCs. It's like yep, there we go. It's the picture of the microphone with the logo there. So I've pulled out a couple of principles that we teach people how basically to host that I think really translate to this. So the experience is what we're going to talk about right now. So the first principle I've got for you guys is off, then on. Say it with me. Say off, then on.
Off, then on.
So what this means is who you are off the microphone is more important than who you are on the microphone. Now, if you can't hear me on Zoom, I stopped talking in the microphone to demonstrate a principle there. But what I mean by that, what we mean by that is when you're in your group together, you're going to be like leading. You're going to be the conversation facilitator, but who you are not as the facilitation leader is more important than who you are as the discussion leader. Does that make sense with everyone? So off then on is the first one. And I've got a scripture for you guys for this one. This is Luke 6:42. And it's the ESV version. It says, how can you say to your brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck that is in your brother's eye. So Jesus tells us that we should focus first on ourselves and then on other people, right? So it's just a simple, basic principle that, like, if I was just frankly an a-hole and I was standing up here, but I'm portraying a good guy, you're gonna be able to see through that. So what I'm trying to basically say is, hey, when you're with your groups at the event or after the event, just be yourself. They're there to hang out with you and to know that, like, you're a real dude who's got faults of his own, who's got problems of his own. So just be yourself. And then we're going to try to make it easy for you during the momentum event and past that, just to say, all right, pull out this card, let's ask this question and have a good time. So that's the first one. The next one that's a simple hosting principle is be your guest. Be your guest. Here's what I mean by that. So when I walked in this morning, I sat at a couple of these tables and I was looking at the stage, I was looking at what was here. We decided originally we were going to hand out these boxes beforehand, but we figured, hey, if we were sitting at the stage and we had, like, the table was cluttered with a bunch of boxes, it would be hard to pay attention. We might be digging through the boxes. So be your guest is just a simple principle of put yourself in the shoes, like, go outside your front door if you're hosting at home and walk in and imagine you're a stranger, like you're one of the guys walking into your event. Like just picture like what would it be like to be someone, maybe you know the guy, maybe he's a friend of a friend that was invited to come and be there. What is it like to be in their shoes? Like when my wife and I host groups at our house, we try to meet people at the door and just tell them really simple expectations like, hey, like we don't like shoes in the house, so would you mind leaving your shoes right here? You can come like show them where the bathroom is. We try to like say, hey, would you like a drink of water? Here's the cup, here's the thing. So be your guest by like thinking through right from they walk in the door to they're seated on a couch, where are they going to sit? If I'm new to someone's house and be like, is it cool if I sit on your couch? Do I need to take my shoes off? Like, what do I need to do? People want to know. So just tell them really simple expectations. And there's a scripture that I picked for this one also. So it's Romans 12:13. It says, contribute to the needs of the saints and seek to show hospitality. The word there is hospitality, right? So hospitality is an entire, like you can go to school for hospitality. I went to UCF in Orlando, which is why I'm wearing the black and gold sneakers because we played football last night. And so like at UCF, they have an entire Rosen College of hospitality. And so hospitality is just simple being, but in a summary, it's just being welcoming, just welcoming them in. Even if it's your boy and you're used to having them over, you can still be hospitable and just welcome them in. So that's one right there. All right, run that show. Everyone say, run that show. Here's what we mean by that. Whenever I'm on stage and we teach someone else how to do what I do, what I mean by that is, I mean, hey, there is like an agenda. Like me and Aaron talked beforehand. We've got printed agendas here. I've shown you like on screen a couple of agendas. It is up to me to drive the meeting. I know that there is a certain time that I need to hit. So with you in your home, like we're starting at 6 p.m. If you're inviting the guys over, like Ramal, I keep picking on you, but he was saying, yeah, like some guys, they won't come to church with me, but they'll come over when I throw something on the grill. So he's going to throw something on the grill and then have some guys over for the momentum event. So if you're going to do that early, just know like it is up to you as the facilitator, as the leader to know, hey, we from Victory, we're starting at 6. So if you're like 6:15 and you're just kind of coming in, we're going to be 15 minutes into it. So what we mean by this is when you're in your groups, it is up to you to run your own mini event by saying, hey, 5:45, let's start to make our way inside. Let's get the computer on. Let's get on the TV, make sure I can hear the music that's playing. That way at 6 p.m. when this thing starts, it shows up on your TV and your guys can just kind of come in and sit down. Now, that being said, if you have already, like if you're already having a kind of a ministry moment where you're praying or something like that, give yourself permission, like you can set it up and maybe have it on your TV. And then the guys, maybe you're having like a one-on-one conversation with a guy where you're already praying with him or talking about something real. And then you guys can walk in late, but at least have it maybe up on the TV first so that when it starts, it can come on and other people can watch it. Anything to add?
Yeah. So guys, there's going to be a private YouTube link. This is going to be streamed on YouTube. It's not open for everybody. In the past, we have streamed a lot of events online, on the app, on Facebook, all that stuff. But this event, they can only get it if they have the link for YouTube, which means you guys are the only ones who have the access. So we'll get into the technical aspects of how to have YouTube play on whatever device you have. And we can kind of work through some of that with you. And Sean may give a quick demo if you have any questions about that during the Q&A piece. But there's going to be a time to do sound check, video check. So you can get on there and you should be able to see our screen, logo, whatever on there with music playing. And I recommend, again, checking it as soon as you can, making sure the link works, but then also maybe 15 minutes out, 20 minutes out, making sure that you have it on the TV, just waiting for you. And even if you want to mute it or something, you can. The thing about this is you can't pause this event. Like, it's a live event. Some of you guys may roll in 30 minutes like the church. You can't do that this event. like this event starts at 6 p.m. and everything is timed to the minute because we're coordinating in other countries. We're coordinating in multiple sites. This is it's down to the minute kind of thing. Yeah, actually, that was it.
Oh, you're good. So we talked about this briefly. I didn't put together like a slide for this, but just to go off script for a sec with the technical aspect, if it was me hosting in my room, I don't know how tech savvy you guys are. You're probably pretty good, but if not, cool. Here's what I would do. I would take my computer, I'd plug it in the TV almost as if it's like another monitor like you would use at your desk. And then I would try to find a way to plug the internet cable, like directly from your modem into your computer rather than go over Wi-Fi. That's what I would do if I were you. And then it's just really simple. It's simple for me, but it's also not simple for other people. So if you're helping out, maybe you got a buddy who couldn't show up today, then you can give them that tip also.
How many guys already have YouTube like on your TV? All you have to do is just,
Apple TV,
Apple TV.
or like
That's like
Fire Stick.
Okay, better question. Who does not? So we can help you, get with you if you need help with this. Anybody not have a YouTube function on their TV or where they're going to be showing the event? Oh, good. We get the time back. All right.
Awesome. All right. So the next word is flexicution. Everyone say flexicution. Come on, I need a little more. So flexicution is the next one. So flexicution is two words put together. It's flexibility and execution. And here's what I mean by this. So this next picture that I've got for you guys, this is a picture of back in March. This is when literally like everyone was trying to get on the internet at the same time. And this is all of these websites and servers crashing at the same time. Spotify, Zoom, Hulu, Netflix, Google Hangouts, like all Google things, Nest, Snapchat, Discord. Someone took a picture of like, it was some website that could track this stuff and it all crashed. I remember going to Twitter because I couldn't get into my Gmail account, like to send an email to a client, because this was like 2 weeks into the pandemic when everyone was online at the same time. And I was like, what's happening? So I go to Twitter and someone has this picture. And the reason why I show this to you is because this is an online event. As a company, like I literally just did an online event last week with a bank, Georgia's own credit union. We had 500 people on Zoom and we were streaming from our studio in Alpharetta. And there's some things that we can control. Like there was a group outside for some reason, almost every time we turn on, they're doing construction. Every time we turn on, go live for an event, they start using this jackhammer thing. So we had to send someone over next door to go tell them to be quiet, right? If the internet goes down and Zoom crashes, we cannot control that. If YouTube crashes, or if the power to the building goes out or the Norcross goes down, we can't control that. If your internet goes down, we can't control that either. So what I mean by flexicution is, hey, have a plan in your mind. We have a plan of what we're going through. If something happens, just roll with it. Maybe pull it up on your phone or stream it that way if you need to, if your internet goes down, and airplay it onto your TV or something like that.
Yeah, guys, in the military, we call this commander's intent. So in the Marines, they try to make sure that everyone down to the lowest man knows the mission, so that if everybody else gets killed, he can still continue with the mission. Or if he gets cut off, disconnected, he knows how to, no matter if the plane goes south or not, he knows how to adapt and still fulfill the mission. So what we're calling commander's intent is tonight or today, we want you to know the heart of the event, what we're trying to accomplish, and give you the tools where if you had to improvise, you could. This is called preparation for worst case scenario. Say, okay, what happens if my TV stops working today? Well, I have the cards. We're not going to abandon the event. We're going to finish the mission. So the event is we were going to have a discussion about this, and we're going to. And you may need to be prepared where I'm prepared to lead a discussion about this based off my own story or something. Now, most likely that's not going to happen, but you don't want to just walk in here unprepared for anything. You want to prepare for an event because you're the leader. And if it's not going to be you that would do that, then assign somebody on your team that can take over that part for you. But be prepared.
Perfect. So, and the next one that I've got for you guys after that one is thermostat versus thermometer. Thermostat versus thermometer. So I'm going to walk over to Zoom real quick because I want these guys to participate too. Type in chat or unmute yourself if you're on Zoom. What does a thermometer do? What does a thermometer do? I'm going to pull up chat right here. Hey, what's up, you guys? You didn't think I'd walk over to the computer, but I'm here.
Get you yelled at by me for touching it?
A thermometer tells us, a thermostat tells us the temperature, changes the temperature in the room, and a thermometer tells us the temperature in the room.
Yes, Stephen. Thank you, Stephen, on Zoom. So Stephen said a thermostat sets the temperature of the room, and a thermometer reads the temperature of the room. So one of the things that we teach whenever people are hosting, so this is for you with your guys, you have the opportunity, because you're welcoming people in, because you're leading, you have the opportunity to set the temperature rather than read the temperature. Sometimes I even do this. Like, I'll walk into a situation, especially if I'm comfortable with these people, and I'll just kind of like chill and let the thing kind of flow. What we're encouraging you guys to do is to set the tone. So like, gather them together. They're really simple. It's not like anything crazy. It's just gather your people together and just say, hey, I'm glad that you're here, and here's why I'm glad that you're here. I'm just glad because Victory has made a difference in my life, and I want you guys to hear a couple of things that they have to say, and I want to spend some time with my boys. It can be as simple as that. So something simple like that. So thermostat versus thermometer. Now, the scripture that I've got for this one is 1 Timothy 1:5. It says, the aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith. Now, why I put this one on screen is this is 5 verses into a letter that Paul wrote to Timothy, right? Paul was writing to Timothy because he wasn't there in person. Timothy was there leading a church. And what's really cool is in Acts, Jesus came down from heaven. He died on the cross. He was resurrected. And then he left. And he said, I'm going to leave you with the Spirit. And in Acts, the very first church was doing exactly what you guys are going to be doing in your homes. They were gathering together. They were sharing a meal. And they were talking about Jesus. And they were just like reading the Bible or opening up scripture together. That's what you guys are going to be doing. And so here, Paul, he's setting the tone with Timothy. He's telling him what the purpose is, and it's 5 verses in, it's like 5 lines into this letter that he's writing with them. So what is the tone that he's trying to set? The aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart and a good conscience and a sincere faith, which of course is in Jesus and what he did for us. Anything to add to that? Nope.
Nah, that's good, man.
Cool. All right. Just a couple more. 25-foot rule. Say it with me, 25-foot rule. Now, before this morning started, I went to a couple of the first tables and I got to meet a couple people. I got to meet Ramal, who I've been picking on a couple times. CK over here, who served in the Navy for 6 years in San Diego. All I did, so in hosting, what I try to do is I try to go around to the first, like, people, anybody that's within 25 feet of me, and just talk with them for a second if I can. I don't have the opportunity to go around and do that to everybody because there was like 50 of y'all within 25 feet of me. And because sometimes you just talk longer with everyone. So how does this look practically with you guys welcoming people in? Some of y'all might have 20 dudes come and hang out with you. That's cool. Try if you can just to say hi to every single one of them right there. Hey, if you haven't met them, get their name. Get something about them. Maybe it's their kid's name or their spouse's name or something that they've done. I know that Eddie right here, right? Joey works at Chilla as a pediatric endocrinologist. So I try just to meet people and just be personal and just ask them a couple of questions about themselves. It's just a really simple hosting principle. And here's the scripture that I've got for you for this one. So it's 1 Timothy again, and this is chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. It says, first of all, then I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgiving be made for all people, right? For all, I bolded it on purpose. I try to just make this really simple. The reason why this scripture stood out to me for this one is because it's not about just, if you have a group of 20 guys coming over, because maybe some of you have a larger group, maybe it's you might be inclined to hang out with the guys that's like the 3 or 4 that are your boys that you hang out with all the time. Maybe you go to the gym. Maybe you work together. Maybe you go out to eat a lot together. Maybe you just want to hang out and talk about the Braves game and how they crushed the Dodgers tonight. I don't know what that is. But for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. This is good and is pleasing in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. So it's not about just meeting the people that you know and love. It's just about making everybody feel welcome. Cool? All right. Then the last one is high five culture. Everyone say high five culture. So now you don't have to have a high five culture in your group that you're with. But we teach people a lot of times because there's a difference between a handshake and a high five. If you feel comfortable doing so, give someone a handshake next to you right now. Go ahead and give someone a handshake if you feel comfortable doing it. If you don't because of COVID, say it's cool, don't do it. Now, if you feel comfortable doing it, give someone a high five. Give someone a high five. All right? Notice like there's a slight energy difference between a handshake and a high five. So when you're hosting people over at your house, just pick like what type of a culture do you want? Do you want it to be, maybe it's appropriate to be a handshake. Maybe it's just a knuckle bump because of COVID stuff. Maybe it's a hug, right? It could be. I mean, personally in business, we talk about with our clients, we want to go from handshakes to hugs. When the first time I meet a client, I'm going to start off with a handshake. Eventually want to leave it with a hug. So we talk about high five culture, specifically events, but with your group, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be a handshake? Do you want it to be a high five? Do you want it to be a knuckle bump? There's just a certain energy that you feel. So what is that energy? So those are the principles. Now I'd love to hear if anybody was writing down or you're thinking about one. Is there one that just stuck out to you like, I think I'm going to use that or that's going to help me in my group? This is me asking you guys the question. The high five culture, fist bump. Well, it doesn't have to be this one. Is there any of these principles that I shared with you?
Thermostat versus
thermometer, high five, 25-foot rule, one of those. Is there one of those that you're like, that's going to help me? Off and on, flexecution, be your guest. It's good. Flexecution, thermostat, thermometer. That's good.
So guys, actually about that thermostat thermometer thing, again, talking about hospitality. Before I was pastor, I spent 10 years managing bars, nightclubs, lounges, restaurants, all that stuff. And I've said this before, but it matters. So when you're setting your environment, Pastor Dennis kind of talked about this a little bit last month too. The acronym is SALT: sound, atmosphere, lighting, and temperature. So the way you prepare an environment matters. This one I didn't get too detailed, but if you guys used to come to the first few years of the men's practices, and you used to help me set up, you probably got annoyed because I'd be like, hey, don't just throw the pens in the middle of the table. Hey, don't just drop the flyers on the table. Like, presentation matters. How you sit it, like how you set up the table for the chairs. Think about, you want to make this as best as you can. Like, you're trying to make this most comfortable. Think about, you're coming into a house, you don't want it to be weird, like, man, you put flowers in my chair and all that stuff. But at the same time, you want to be like
chocolate on the pillow.
Exactly. Like, you don't want to like carry the guy to the seat or anything like that. Like, it's too much. Don't be weird about it. But at the same time, think about, I'm coming into a guy's house. Think about how I feel when I go to a house that I've never been before. What's going to make me feel more comfortable? Like snacks, drinks easily accessible, things to mess with, games. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's not dark and weird, it's not surgical room, like stuff like that. The music isn't so loud that you can't hear each other, but it's also not silent where it's awkward, where you have to fill the room with noise. When you guys came in here, Simone had music playing. We switched it from worship to more upbeat music because worship was too chill for this early in the morning. You're going to fall asleep. I want upbeat because I want the energy to be up here. About the culture, the way the room feels when you walk in. Looking around and saying, where are guys going to sit? Is that going to be comfortable? Is that going to be guys' knees touching? And they're not going to be good with that. So it's trying to put yourself in a place. And if you start thinking like this, you'll notice this every time you go into a restaurant, every time you go into someone's living room. It's like I spot it and say, how does this feel? Does this feel weird? Does this feel like they didn't care? They didn't think about me being here. They just threw it on the table? Or do they take time to prepare for me being here? That's what hospitality is.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better. So don't make it weird, basically. That's what I got from there. Don't make it weird. All right. So now we've covered the November 6th agenda. We've covered the experience. Now I'm going to show you. So at the beginning, remember how we talked about like the launch, there's going to be a welcome. We're gonna do something fun. I did with you guys this or that. Over at the event, we're gonna do something called Predict the Fail, okay? So we're gonna put up a video, and have you guys seen on YouTube like fail videos where it's like someone's trying to do something and it just goes horribly wrong? Well, this game is basically based on that. So what's gonna happen is it's an icebreaker game for you and your group, just like I did with this or that, except it's based upon fail videos.
Sean, can I share a fail story before you tell your fail video?
Yes, please.
All right, guys. So I like this story because it's one of my most embarrassing moments. All right, so I was dating a girl, and I'm over at her house, and her dad bought the house for her and her sister. And I probably only been out of the Marines for like a year or two. I'm still pretty young and really stupid and arrogant. So there's a light bulb out over the stairway, and he's like, "Let me get the ladder." And we're going to put up some blocks and stuff to put the ladder. And I was like 20 and really impatient. I was like, "We don't need all of that." And I was going to show them how we could shimmy up a wall with your back against the wall, your feet on your side. So you guys could probably predict the fail right now. So I get up there. He's like, "Wait, don't do it, don't do it." And boom, my feet go right to the wall and into the bedroom, hanging out the other side. And I fall with my feet hanging the wall. And he steps over me cursing and walks out the door yelling at me. And I'm stuck with my feet hanging to the wall. And so that was one of the fails. I got one more because these are good. All right. So dating was rough in my early 20s. I have another one where I was dating another girl. Again, this was during my 10-year abyss where Jesus and me didn't know each other. Well, Jesus knew me and I didn't know him. I have never rode a motorcycle. I've never rode a motorcycle before. I still really haven't. And I was dating a girl, and her younger brother is 16. They grew up on these things, like dirt bikes, motorcycles. They're just awesome at it. And we're in the neighborhood of Lawrenceville where the houses are so close to each other. The yards are probably smaller than this platform. And they had a dirt bike. He's like, "Here, I'll teach you how to ride it. Get on. This is how you do the hand. This is how you do the brake, all that stuff." And he sets me up in a failing situation. This is really the 60-year-old's fault, but again, I'm only like 20, and so I wasn't much better off. So he says, "Just crank back on it and it'll go." Now look, we're in her parents' front yard, and they had just brought home a brand new pickup truck. Predict the fail. So I hit, and the guy sits me up 5 feet away from him, pointing at the truck, and I hit the accelerator, and it takes off. And I'm holding it, and it's popped the wheelie, and I don't let go of it because I didn't want to drop the bike, and it drags me over to the truck and down the side of the truck, all the way down the side, from front to back, completely ruined their brand new truck on the first day I came home. So there you are.
All right, so now we're all going to go around and share our worst fail. Just kidding. But here's what's going to happen is at the welcome, I'm going to do an icebreaker so that you guys can start to have conversations in your room. And what's going to happen is I'm going to show the start of a fail video. And then we're going to pause. And then in your groups at home and in the room, you're going to talk to someone next to you. And you're going to tell them, what do you think the fail on the video is going to be? All right. So here's the first video. I've got a demo for you guys. So here's one for you. This is the short clip. So what do you take off? Okay. Really sweet little baby. What do you think is going to happen? All right. Now let's play the full length version right here. Take off. And whoa! Yes. Yes. OMG.
Every single time.
Right in the face. Right in the face. So we're going to play a couple of videos for you guys to talk about. And then from there, we're going to transition into momentum. And here's the transition that I'm going to talk about. I'll tell it to you guys real quick, but we'll put up a picture of a guy on the screen and we'll talk about predict this fail. This is a guy who's got a decent job. He's got family and friends, but he's going it alone. And he doesn't have a group of guys to rely upon. Something happens in his life and something goes horribly wrong and he doesn't know anybody, any of his guys that he can call. Because momentum, the theme of momentum is focusing on community. So then just in a brief discussion of your groups, what would the fail be? When something goes wrong, you don't have any guys that you can rely on that you can call that at the drop of a hat. Like one time, my wife and I, 2 years ago, my wife and I, when we bought our house in Duluth, at the same time we got pregnant. Well, a couple of weeks later, my wife started miscarrying. And in the first miscarriage, it was about 9 o'clock at night. We were in Duluth. My wife, she had was feverish. And so with miscarriage, if you know anything about that, sometimes there's complications. And so I had to take her to the emergency room. Well, I've got a 2-year-old at home. And so I call a friend of mine, a husband and wife from church, that they come over at 9 o'clock at night. They're going to stay with our daughter who's asleep up in her room. So I get in the car, drive my wife to the hospital. We're at the hospital waiting to go in the emergency room. And the wife who got there first to watch our daughter was trying to let her husband in. She locks herself out of the house with my 2-year-old upstairs, and I'm 30 minutes away in the car. So I've got to leave my wife, who's going through complications with a miscarriage, at the emergency room and drive all the way back to Duluth. I get up to this Peachtree Corners, like that giant Hilton area, and they call me. They're like, "Hey, we were able to use a credit card to get in the door." So they shimmy open my front door. So I'm like, I was flying down the road doing 90 on Peachtree Industrial. I screech on the brakes. I'm like, "Thank you," even though I want to say a couple of other words because I was not happy and I turned back the other way. So the fail would have been if I didn't have people that I knew and liked and trusted, because I'll be real, I do not trust many people with my 2-year-old daughter, now my 4-year-old daughter. I won't trust many people with my son. And so that's going to be the transition into talking about community, which is then what the videos and the discussions are going to be about for momentum is, hey, as men, we need community. Cool. So that's predict the fail. All right. Then the last thing we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about with you guys here this morning, is your group flow. Your group flow. So there's 2, and then we'll take a couple of questions. We've got time for questions if we need it, either on Zoom or in the room. So with your group flow, we've got 2 different scenarios that could basically, we're like, okay, let me put myself in your shoes. What could potentially happen that maybe we need to problem solve with you guys? The first one is this, is if you have a large group, okay? So if you have a large group, let's say you're in your house and things just start happening and friends keep inviting friends and you get more people than you thought you were going to have, and maybe you've got 10, 15, 20 people in your house. That's cool. It's not a problem to sit around and watch it, but when it comes to watching the video and then going into discussion, having a discussion with 15 people is a lot different than having a discussion with maybe 5 or 6, right? Because in 15 minutes, if you ask a question, if you got 6 people, that gives everybody about 2 minutes to answer. But if you've got 15 to 20 people, not everyone's going to be able to talk. So here's what we recommend you do if you're hosting by yourself, is simply, if you're hosting, you guys all have a co-host, right? You guys are hosting together, hopefully. So what I would do in your situation is I would simply divide and conquer, where you say, okay, we're going to split up the room. And as the leader, you guys can if you just say, hey, 15 minutes, if we say go for your 15-minute discussion, and then all eyes are going to be on you guys as leaders anyway, because you're hosting at your house, or you're the one who invited the other guys in, just simply say, all right, we're going to divide it up in the room. You guys go into the dining room, we'll stick here, or you guys go onto the porch and we'll stay here, and we'll call you back in 15 minutes so that you can divide it. If you need to divide it into even smaller, if you need to have 5 or 6, you can divide it into 3 groups. So that's just a really simple one that we wanted to equip you guys with, so that you didn't get in the moment, you're like, oh, I haven't even thought about this. What do I do? Cool. Because we do want it to be a discussion where people feel like they can participate.
Yeah, even if you only have 7, I would still split that into 3 and 4. Because, if you guys have been coming to breakfasts for years, we never do more than 6 at a table. And that's because we know that given the time, everyone won't get a chance to speak. So the thing about this, the less people in a group, the deeper they can go, the more time they can have. But you need to have other leaders that you've designated to help facilitate the question. So if you need duplicates of these cards, these question cards and stuff, we can give you those today as well.
Yep. And then the last one that we've got is the second one is time management. So on the screen, when we say, all right, go for your discussion, there is going to be a countdown timer. So don't mute your TV because there will be like light music playing. So don't mute your TV. You can just leave it up and then you can start to talk. But there will be a countdown timer. When that countdown timer is over, if you're separated, just grab your guys like 30 seconds in, you can grab them back in. The screen is going to change about 30 seconds left on the clock. So there will be like a visual cue that's like, okay, we need to start to wrap this up. But like, hey, like it might be kind of a hard stop thing because we're going to go live back on stage and then queue up the next video so that we can keep with the event going. Cool? Just a really simple one.
Yeah, the music will change and it'll actually be an audible like T minus 30 seconds. And then there'll be a 10-second audible countdown. So it almost forces you to stop. So if you're wanting people to kind of wrap it up, you can just keep cranking up the volume, that 10 seconds countdown, and then it just sort of shuts down conversation. That's kind of what I do at the breakfast. I just start talking over everybody until they stop talking.
That's it. So now we've got some time for some questions. So does anybody feel nervous about anything? Is there anything that you haven't thought through, or you're not nervous about it, but you just got a question anyway? Jonathan, right here.
Okay, so like YouTube, like on my TV, not my phone, but on my phone, search.
Yeah.
I actually thought of that same thing. So privately, how do I get it on my TV? And what I've done in the past with that is that on your phone or on your device, you can put it on watch later, or you can put it on your list. And on your TV, if you go to your watch later list, you should be able to pull up the link that way.
Did everybody hear Blaine's solution? Because I was going to have to call production.
And on Zoom. So there's two solutions. So the question is if you're trying to pull this up on your TV and not plug your computer and it's just on your TV, if it's a YouTube link, what do I do? Because YouTube, you have to search for something, but it's a private link. So the answer was, well, and here's my answer is you can plug in your computer if you want to, and that you don't have to do the other alternative version. But if you're signed into YouTube on your email or whatever it is, you pull up that link in your YouTube, hit it to watch later. There's a watch later button. And then when you go into your same YouTube account on your TV that you're logged in as, then instead of having to search for something, you just go to your watch later list, was the question.
Also, we are going to have a Zoom channel set up, but you may want to have either on your phone or another device. Are we going to have all the sites on that or just a few?
I think that's up to production team, but
Okay.
here's the way that we did it. So this is basically, Aaron alluded to earlier, there was a Thrive Today, a women's event where Colleen Rouse launched the Thrive brand or relaunched it. And so what we did is we had a Zoom webinar that was happening. Zoom webinar is a little bit different than Zoom meetings, but on the stage we had a TV. And we're going to pre-select a couple of host sites where we get to actually talk on stage. Me and Aaron will get to talk to the host site leader. So you can either watch the event on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, then you can also chat with other people where you can type into, it's just like a Zoom where you're watching it on screen and you can type into the chat. So you can chat with other Zoom ones out there if you're the leader, or you can ask a question if you need help with something or whatever that is. But you can watch on Zoom or on YouTube.
That'll also be a good way, like if you guys are logged in as participants, if you have tech support questions and stuff like that, you can even use that as well. And then like Sean said, we'll probably have 2 or 3 as panelists on the webinar because we want it to be interactive. We want the guys here to see you guys. We want this event to not only reach people, but to inspire people for where we're going in the future as a church. That yes, you can come here and that's fine because there's a lot of people who don't know anybody and they don't know how to even get connected with you. But the future, the goal is you out there being the church. So it's a there's double benefits for having it that way.
Great question.
Art?
So basically I moved into a new neighborhood and I'm challenging myself to just invite maybe about 6 men that I don't know anything about to come over. How do I even approach that? I started giving out the invitations, but I don't know if they're church people, what faith, different ethnicity, so.
Yeah. So the question was, if you didn't hear it, you just moved into a new neighborhood. is he's challenging himself to invite at least 6 guys to come to his house for the event. Doesn't know anything about them, may be the first time meeting them, and what do I do? So, I mean, I would probably take a page out of his book and say, hey, I'm throwing something on the grill. My church is throwing on this thing, but I would love to have you over. I'll feed you. Like, we'll have a good time. People enjoy food. They enjoy free food even more. So
I think there's college football games on that day. You can watch the games together. Just say, hey, we'll have some guys over to watch the games, and then we're watching a men's event to help you grow as a husband, as a leader in your career, and just accomplish, basically just accomplish everything you want to accomplish as a man in your life.
Well, I put food on the menu, on the
Food.
invitation.
yeah, food on the invitation. Got it.
And just say, hey, my name's Pop. I want everybody in the neighborhood to know me and invite you over. Davis.
So how long are the steak from the break? So perhaps as opposed to the ice hour,
Yeah.
making sure things are ready. How long is that gonna last?
So I think that's where it's also valuable to have a team as well. The guys can have certain tasks. Hey, your job is when this is empty, refill it. Each session is going to vary. Some of the things are still in final editing, but I can tell you, let's just say for the opening game part, how long, actually we have the agenda-ish. But, okay, so stage 1, I'll just say that there's an opening part, there's a game piece. That part might be a little bit longer as far as opening the event, welcoming. There's a spoken word video that gets played. There's an online game, predict the fail, that's going to get played. And then stage 1 is somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes, depending on final editing. Stage 2 is the same thing, between 7 and 10 minutes. Then your interactive piece is 15 minutes after each session. For stage 3, soap, that's going to be a 15-minute video by Todd McIntyre. I'm saying it's 15 minutes because he asked how long he could have, and I told him 15 max. So he'll probably record 30 and we'll cut it in half. But it'll be a 15-minute video and then it'll be another 15-minute session after that. And then the last part will be Pastor Johnson. That landing piece that's on the agenda will be Pastor Johnson coming out and giving everybody kind of one step. What's your small step that you can take to move forward, whether that's accepting Jesus, deciding you want to go public with your faith because you're already a Christian, plugging into a small group somewhere, serving, attending services, whatever your one step's going to be. That'll be about 10-ish minute video. But the event has to be over by 8.
Yeah, and to answer your question, the length between each video and discussion, we have it scripted for about 3 to 4 minutes. So it'll be video play and then 15-minute discussion, and then we'll come back live 3 to 4 minutes, and then the next video will roll.
And so Sean and I will be live in between those videos, and it will either be something in response to something we just all watched, challenging, tie it all together, or just playful banter because we didn't hire a comedian. CK. Yeah, it's actually ready now.
The question was, if you didn't hear it, will you get the private link before the actual date of the event? Aaron said, yes, we've got it ready now. Write me out.
Another thing for communication. So the day of the event, we want you guys to have support. Obviously, you can't text me during the event. I won't be able to help you. But what we're going to have is, in addition to the Zoom webinar, for those of you that are going to be logged in there, and you can directly chat, ask questions there. We're also going to create a WhatsApp channel. Does everybody have WhatsApp? Familiar with WhatsApp? Knows how to use it? Okay, so if you haven't, if you'll download that app, then Lyndon will invite you all to a group probably this next week. You can start asking questions, encouraging each other, sharing things right now. I'm gonna go ahead and make one rule though. This is not for, I know that we all have our devotions and things like that. Keep it on task for what this group is, because what I don't want is people muting this channel before the event and then we lose the purpose of why this channel is created.
It's more like tactical for you guys. It's a way for you guys to talk to each other, for us to talk with you. I'll be reading it. I'm going to be on there also, and I'm going to try to be reading it. And I might ask a question like, hey, how many guys do you have at each of yours? And then when I'm on stage with Aaron, I might try to pull up my phone and be like, hey, we've got X people here, people here, people here, people here.
We would also love for you to share pictures and video of your event on there as the event's going on, because we can start sharing that on social what's happening.
Cool. If you don't have it, if you could, please download the WhatsApp app.
While we're at it, in a minute, when we start doing things like handing out hosted site kits and stuff, if any of you guys want to take pictures, video, for you to share on your own pages, to help promote the event, or to send to us for us to promote, please feel free to do that. Other questions?
Any questions on Zoom?
Bro, you got any questions popping up over there?
I'm handling, but no, nothing for this.
Okay, Jonathan?
So clarify the question. At home, if video, YouTube video playing, it plays, that's not really there. But the Zoom, WhatsApp.
If you pull up YouTube, don't worry about Zoom. If you pull up YouTube, just WhatsApp is a great way to communicate with us. So for the Zoom is either watch the event on Zoom or watch the event on YouTube. Don't worry about that.
So we're gonna be streaming the YouTube event on Zoom.
So yes, the event will be streamed basically both to Zoom and YouTube at like the same time.
Okay, all right. Then.
Is my understanding with the production team.
And the panelists will be, sorry, I didn't clarity too. This is the part that I don't do as a technical piece. So then on the webinar, let's just say we have 3 groups that are panelists on there. That will be, that's 2-way. We'll be able to show that up in the room as well. If we weren't on a TV like this one over here, right? Is that what we're gonna do?
Yes. Yeah, so the Zoom, the reason why we're doing both Zoom and YouTube is because we want to show that like, hey, this is a real event happening in like multiple locations. So we're gonna pull up 1 or 2 different groups on Zoom and we'll have them on screen so that we can like see their faces on stage. But you'll know who you are if you're selected for that.
And again, like, please do share the pictures and videos of the WhatsApp, because as those are coming in, we're gonna give those over to our social media manager that can start putting them on Victory's website, putting them on the Mid United pages, things like that, so. What other questions do you guys got? Is anybody running into any challenges that you either, you need to, we can ask best practices from any other groups in here, whether that be with games, with what you're gonna do for, activity, food, any questions like that, Jonathan?
So the bench from 6 to 8, right? Suggestion from
The question was, the event's from 6 to 8. So what do I do with my wife and kids?
Well, without knowing your venue and how that is, how much space you have, sometimes you just, hey, send them upstairs. Sometimes it's a great time to go to a movie or something like that, or have a play date or whatever else. If there's family in town, things like that. If it was my house, I'd probably sleep in the basement upstairs. But if you saw my house, it's not a bad thing. So it's not like it's like there's rats
To the dungeon.
Exactly. It's actually finished, so it's okay. But
But if they come back at 8.
yeah, they come back at 8. The event has to end 8. Here's the thing about them coming back. What we don't know is the ministry moment. So that landing thing, that 10-minute one step. If Johnson's inviting them to accept Jesus, like you're the minister in the room at that moment. So he's going to lead them in the prayer. Maybe they're going to talk about it. Maybe something came up in one of the conversations. Like, leave room for God to do something that's not on the script. Leave room for, hey man, you know what? I don't have anybody in my life. My wife just left me last week. My world's falling apart, and he breaks into tears. Like, you don't have to put him back together. That's not your job. But your job is to be compassionate, empathetic, be there for him, offer support, tell him how you got connected, pray for him, things like that. It's just being Jesus to people. It's not having to be Google for people. Does that make sense? Like, I don't have to have all the answers. I just need to get you to the person who does. And if you can do that, and here's the other part. We're going to talk about this a little bit, but praying over your site, over your family, because here's the thing, and I'm not saying this to scare you guys, and this isn't on the agenda, but I've been doing men's ministry for really for about 10 years, been on staff here for almost 6. And what I have learned from doing this is when you start trying to minister to men, it's like painting a giant target on your back. The enemy is no fool, man. any military operation knows, you take out the leaders and the officers first. And I know in 2021, it's unpopular to call a man a leader, but that's the way God created it. And it doesn't mean that my wife is not an incredible leader. She's probably a better leader than I am. But my role is still my role. I'm still the head of my house. And so as the head of my house, there's going to be attacks that come at me that are going to be different from the ones that come at her. When you start trying to mess with the enemy's plan, if you invite yourself, it's like sticking your head up. I'm the leader. And it's like a big target. So what I say all that is to say, pray for each other. Pray over this event. Pray over your car, your house, things like that. Because if I told you guys, I don't know how many events I've done now, but if I told you guys the warfare that I would experience before every breakfast, before every event, and I would forget. My wife and I would be fighting, health issues, this would happen. And then all of a sudden I remember, oh yeah, there's the men's event coming up. And I'm completely forgot about it. Why are things getting so hard? Why am I getting so angry all the time? Because the enemy doesn't want this to happen, man. Because if one man makes a decision to change the direction he's going, one man decides that he's going to follow Jesus, his entire family legacy, like throughout time for generations, changes. One man it changes. Like there's one guy. Guys, it's really easy for the last few months to focus on the operations, the planning, the logistics, and all this stuff. And that stuff's absolutely important. I think it's Proverbs 21. It talks about a man lays out his plans. A man plans his way, but the Lord orchestrates his steps. So we are laying out our plans for what's going to happen on November 6th. But the Lord is going to orchestrate what actually happens. So we hold our plans loosely, including 8 p.m., and we say that all the pre-recorded content will be over. The event will have a screen that comes up and music. We can't stretch out this event. So you don't have to worry about that from our point of view. From your point of view, if God does something, be prepared to go with it, and have your family on the same page with why you're doing this. Remind them, why did we sign up? Because here's the thing: you signed up back in June. Nobody remembers why you signed up. Your wife doesn't remember why you did this. She just knows they got to clean the house, or you just kicked them out of the house. So you have to remind them of why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Because who I am today. Imagine if someone hadn't told me. Imagine if I wasn't here. What would be our legacy? What would happen to this man? Well, as a follower of Jesus, I don't get to opt out of this for other people. I don't get to say, well, somebody will do it. A follower of Jesus says, this is the only way. This is the only way to follow Jesus, is to go and make disciples. If we're not doing this, we're not following Jesus. So I just say the why, because I have to remind myself all the time of why I'm doing this, or I'm throwing in the towel, man. So I want to remind you guys, this is not just an event and a cool thing to do. Honestly, if you look at it real quick, and I know I'm way off the script now, but if you look at this event, at first glance, it's very simple. It can be a very light event when you're looking like, oh, it's going to be pre-recorded content and a video and a conversation, and these questions aren't like tell me your deepest, darkest secret kind of questions. So it's kind of a lighter event, but all this is the vehicle to bring people into the presence of God and allow God to reach them wherever they're at. And so we wanted to create a vehicle that we thought anybody could get into, and let the Holy Spirit do the rest. So that was a really long answer, Jonathan, but great question.
A couple thoughts in addition. I think it'd be a really cool teaching moment with your kids also. Like if it were me at my home, I would explain to our daughter and say, hey, daddy's going to have a bunch of guys over because we're going to learn about Jesus and what it means to have friends and why having friends is really important. And so that's a really cool teaching moment, and say, so because of that, you and mommy are going to go somewhere, or you're going to be in a part of the house, or whatever that is. And then just an idea is, if you do have another guy that's coming over, maybe he's got a wife and kids also, maybe they can get together and have some time together because he's going to be away. They can have a girls' day, or the moms can with the kids, that kind of thing, or something like that. So just a couple of ideas.
I also want to share with you guys something Pastor Chris Frith, our BHM campus pastor, told me right before the last event in June. He was praying for me. He said, Aaron, don't be surprised and don't be disappointed. He's like, don't be disappointed by what God chooses to do. How many people come to this event? because God handpicked who's gonna be there, and also every man has a choice. All of us have a choice. So the invitation may have, Jesus invited the entire world, and look at the percentages that accepted it. So don't be disappointed, be faithful. Also, don't be surprised, don't put God in a box. Don't tell him he can only do this much and this is where I draw my line. So create an environment where God can move, but don't make this about you and your expectation of what measures success. It's about God's expectation of what success is.
I would also say on the disappointed part, like if you invite 8 guys and 2 show up, do not feel like it's a failure at all. Because what it is it's an opportunity. You've now got 15 minutes to have a really good conversation at this thing with 2 other guys. So it is not a failure, it's just an opportunity. Sure.
And for 3 guys, and it doesn't matter if it's small space, but there's one of them that's unsure about it. And I know when I signed up, I didn't have open for you to like send it to me. What I'm saying, I have a group of 1 more guy, like, are we going to send somebody going my way or what?
So from where we sit, if I get a connection of like someone just text me, what was it? Actually, read the question.
So the question was, he said that he's got a small space and he's got a limited number of people he can have. He's got 1 guy that's unsure of coming, whether or not he's going to come or not. So he might have 1 spot. So the question was, do you, like, he didn't, when he registered, he didn't leave it open for more people to come. Can Victory send someone else his way? Was the question.
So if I happen, like someone just reached out, the spot to go, I can send it to you directly that way. But from where I am, it's kind of, because of the communication sources we have, it's kind of hard to just let a little bit of water through. It's kind of like a flood. So you can always say, hey, we're full. But what I would say is you have 2 weeks, and I would pray for God to highlight who he wants you to invite. And you don't invite, listen guys, you don't invite how many people you have seats for, unless you get like 100% batting average. I invite thousands to the men's event, thousands, knowing that hundreds may show up. So you invite a lot, and then again, you you dig deep wells, and you let God determine how he's going to fill them up.
Yeah. And then over here.
Well, with our young boys, is there a place where like teenagers, young boys can connect? Because like my son, I think he would feel more comfortable being in a group with younger folks instead of coming to the group that I'm doing, because there's going to be a lot of older men. But with the men's events, we bring like our teenagers, 15, 14, these boys that are learning how to be men. Is there a place or a space for them to connect and be able to participate?
Is anybody running? Oh, sorry.
The question was, is there a space for young men, teenagers to come and connect together as well?
Is anybody running a group that's geared towards younger guys? Omar is. Yeah.
Young adults over here.
Joseph, you got some? So maybe Blaine connect with either Joseph or Omar over here and see what they got going on. Another thing is this, guys. Javon, you got one?
Well, I was gonna say, in our space, we actually have fathers with teenagers, and they'll be, okay.
Thanks, Sean. So what I was gonna say, that may be a little different. At the host site that I'm co-hosting with Mike, we'll have a space with adults and teenagers. So while we'll be in the same space, we'll be able to have the teenagers to kind of have their own discussion. So they'll be going on the same track that we are in, but they'll be able to have age relevant like context and discussion with it, which we consider a win for us primarily because we know that there's value in them seeing the older men doing their thing while they're doing their thing. So even if, because I think there's learning that happens both ways, age relevant discussion that they're having with the peer, but I do think a lot is just picked up by being in the same space because when it comes to manhood, there's a lot that's just modeled there. So even if they're not in the conversation with 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds, 40-year-olds, and they're having their own discussion, it's just great for them to be able to see and be in proximity with people that are older. So that's the reason why we set up our space that way. And so that way, if they're 14, 15, they can still feel, hey, this is my event.
Yeah. No, I know, thank you, Pastor Devon. I know Pastor Earl, we kind of got back and forth. I know he used to bring some of the middle schoolers to the men's breakfasts, and one time they would have them all sit at one table together. And then we realized that you really lose the intergenerational ministry. And I think the whole separating by the ages is uniquely an American phenomenon. If you look at other cultures, the only way you catch manhood is being around other men. And the longer you prolong, there's environments that are created just for boys and youth groups. And that's great. Every church has that. And they focus primarily on that. I'm actually way more in support of having the younger boys and the young men with the men, even if it's awkward and uncomfortable, even if they don't get it, even if they hear stories that maybe they wouldn't normally hear, because that's how you learn to become a man, is in the presence of other men.
And so two quick thoughts to add on to that. One is it's a cool opportunity to either invite them in to be around other men that are older men and hear like different things. If you do choose to put them into a separate group where it's more of their peer age, it's also a great opportunity to equip, like empower someone of a younger age and say, hey, you're going to be the leader of this group and here's the conversation to have. So that's a cool opportunity. On top of in support of the argument of including them into the older group, the pastor of my church down in Florida that I attend, he likes to say that he doesn't group a bunch of young men together because it's putting a whole lot of stupid together and they don't need more of that. So let them be with people who are a little older and wiser.
Rod, you got something?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not unique to him because we are pushing it on Wednesday nights through the high school ministry. So if your whole site is open, don't be surprised if you get other high school kids coming out to your site as well. So it's good for everybody.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So I've seen some guys are already getting emails. I get copied, the midnight email gets copied on it when they reach out to you guys as well. So check your emails. I know Brian Joseph, I don't see him in the room. And Conyers, he's one I've seen several people apply to. So check your emails, check your junk email. People may be emailing you, especially over the next 2 weeks. And really, the week of especially, like our men don't respond to anything until about 24 to 48 hours out. So I used to get terrified of like, there's 25 guys coming to this event, and then the day before 1,000 registered.
The question, by the way, if you didn't hear it, was if you're an open site, do people reach out to you? I would also add on to that, don't assume they're going to. Just take the initiative and reach out to them if you get their contact information or if you know them.
Yeah, so the way it works right now, if you go to victoryatl.com/momentum, and you scroll down, it says you can either attend here at Victory Norcross or you can attend one of our host sites. And if you indicate your group is open, there's a form with a drop-down menu, and they can click on your name and the city you're in when you give them your address, and it has like your email, your phone number, and when they fill it out, it sends an email to you. So-and-so is interested in your group, or so-and-so wants to, whatever. Then you just respond to them. So that's one way. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and to make it easier for the people you send it out to, get to that page and then send it out from there. So they don't have to go through all the steps of victoryatl.com, look for this, look for that, look for that. But if you open it up and hit send from right there, when they receive that text message, it'll open them up right to the screen where they can sign up.
Yeah, and I think we put that link on every single thing that you guys, your invite cards that we gave you last month has the link on there. If you need more of these, we have more of these today. And we also put more in the host site kits. Any other questions before we move on to the next part? You sure? Online?
They just want to know if this training would be recorded and available.
Yeah, we record everything. Well, unless I say we're not recording this. So we'll cut it up and we'll send this training back out in email for all you guys. And I know there are some guys who let us know in advance they couldn't be in the building today. Anything else? Yeah, CK. SALT acronym is sound, atmosphere, lighting, and temperature.
Great questions.
All right. So then for our next part, we're gonna, well, first of all, Sean, thank you very much for leading us to this conversation, man.